Do you own your own business, or does it own you? If you're ready to take back control of your life, kick the crap out of your way, shorten your learning curve, design your own version of success, and claim your entrepreneurial freedom, then you're in the right place. This is Do Business on Your Own Terms with your host, Bob Holdsworth.
People do not want you to succeed. You need to accept that. You need to get over it, and you need to move on. Welcome to this edition of Do Business on Your Own Terms. I'm Bob Holdsworth, your host, and that's the topic for today. There's a very strange phenomenon when people go into business for themselves. There are a group of people that celebrate publicly the fact that you've finally made that choice and you've gone off on your own, and it's awesome. There's a group that remain relatively silent. They don't say much. They just kind of grin and go, good for you. And there's a group that tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't. Oh my God, it's not the right time to start a business. I don't know that that's going to work. That doesn't sound like an idea that might work. Do you realize how much competition you're going to have? All the big guys that are out there doing that. Do everything possible to throw an obstacle in your way, throw a wet blanket over your dream. It happens daily. Sometimes it's designed by people who are trying to be helpful, but they're really, there's some deep-seated issues there. If you are going to go into business, or you are in business for yourself, and you truly want the freedom to do it your way, the entrepreneurial freedom to do it your way, and you want to do it on your own terms, you are going to have to tune out a fair amount of that. And they come from places that you wouldn't expect it. They come from family and friends. They come from internal. You are sometimes your own worst enemy. I know I am. I can be my own worst enemy. And I'm going to talk a little about that and some of the things you may be facing. And then there's coworkers and other business connections that will get in your way as well. But if you have the general idea that the majority of people really are not looking for you to succeed, they're looking to see what you can do, certainly. And there are some very specific people in your life that truly are enthusiastic. And those are the folks you want to align yourself with. And the rest of the folks you want to kind of keep at the side, kind of marginalize if you have to. Family and friends are the ones that tend to try to help, but tend to hurt the most when they say something. And there's a lot of reasons psychologically behind why they do what they do. One of the more common ones that the psychologists talk about all the time is their fear of you becoming better than them, because you're doing something that many of them said they wanted to do and never did, didn't have the wherewithal to go out and do it. And there's stuff that comes back at you. There's little jabs that happen. There's belittling your work accomplishments. Oh, yeah, I've seen that done 1,000 times. Even trying to spin the fact that you've been successful down the road when you've made some income and you've made some investments, you've done some retirement. Things like, hey, it must be nice to send your kids to private school. Hey, it must be nice to have a beach house. Oh, look, another new car. They don't realize that you're leasing the car through the business. They don't realize that that beach house, that they're sitting in it when they're making that comment. So it must be nice to travel all the time. So those are things that, and you kind of sit there and go, where's that coming from? Why are they doing that? Part of it is just a fear that they have and they're trying to cover up for themselves. There's also the people in your family and your friends trying to impose upon what you should do. So, well, now that you've been successful, you should give to this charity that I support. Now you should serve on some boards. You should. Going back to core principles and why, maybe you should. Maybe it's a good cause you didn't know about. Maybe it's something that you might want to participate in. But other people don't impose their wishes on you. It just doesn't work that way. There's some jealousy that you get to make your own rules, and they have to play by the rules of others. It must be nice to come and go as you please. Must be nice to carve out vacations when you want. Must be nice to work a 4-day work week. It is. At least here in the U.S., which is where the majority of the audience is probably going to be from as this podcast starts to evolve. But in most countries, the U.S. specifically, everybody that is throwing those jabs and arrows at you has exactly the same level of opportunity you do. They just have to put the Cheetos down, get off the couch, and go do something. And you did. So they're entitled to their opinion. You're not going to let that opinion impact how you do things and how you do it on your own terms. Just not going to happen. There's also a little bit of a fear that they might lose you. So you might go into different social circles. You might move away. You might be more successful and not want to be around them anymore. And it's not really spoken, but it's in there and it's something you have to deal with. So be prepared, understand where some of this is coming from, and just cope with it on a day-to-day basis and go back to your basic foundation of why you're in the business that you're in. Some will like it, some will not, some will support it, some will not, some will buy from you, some won't. Doesn't matter. Go after the folks that love you for who you are. Go after the folks who can support with a big smile what you're doing and who want to participate with you, and be prepared to marginalize the ones that don't. Now we get to the tough one. You, me, in our heads. It is sometimes difficult for us to accept the fact that we are actually worthy of success. That little nagging voice in our head, who am I to, who are you to be charging what you charge, to think that you have the ability to create your own destiny. And that little nagging voice says, I'm not worthy, and gets you in your way. So know it's coming. Know that little voice is going to come forward, and be prepared to play whack-a-mole with it. When it pops up, smack it. When it pops up again, smack it again. Go back to your key points. Go back to your why. Look at the pictures that are on your desk and know what you're doing it for. Go home and hug your kids. Celebrate the fact that you're going on a vacation with your kids and you get to spend time with them, or your spouse or your significant other. Right? So use those tools and place them strategically, so when those little doubts pop up, you can look at those, you can read them, you can do whatever it is you need in the way of affirmations to euphemistically play whack-a-mole with that. I actually, several years ago, was working with a client who, for the first time, somebody had ever admitted to me, and he literally sat in my office and said, I'm fearful that this is going to work. And it took me a minute. I really didn't know what to say. I was, what do you mean? He goes, I'm convinced that this plan and this business model is going to work. And I went, well, so am I. He goes, no, but I mean it. I expect it to work so well that this is going to be a really big business. And I'm afraid to push the button because I don't know if I really want a big business. Well, we probably should have talked about that a while ago before we went down all this marketing, developed a marketing plan and developed a strategic plan and started talking to strategic partners. And you started talking to venture capital guys to bring in some money to expand after, down the road. Because that would have been a really handy piece of information that we could have talked about beforehand. Why are you where you are? What is the problem? And he goes, my family has never had two nickels to rub together in their life. We've always been a very close-knit family. We've always hung out. We've always helped each other out. We've always done things very simply. And this has the potential to bring me a lot of money, and I'm not sure I'm ready to handle it. I'm like, okay. He goes, I'm also afraid to lose some of the connections. I'm kind of comfortable. The same old, same old. So it's kind of like that old flannel shirt. You're really comfortable wearing it. You don't really want to throw it away, and you don't really want to move up to cashmere. So that whole self-doubt. And when we talked about it, I said, well, what could you do for your family with the revenue? What could you do for your nieces and nephews about putting college funds together for them? And not in a look what I've got, look what I've done, but in creating a family trust that would take care of folks, as they got older, as the kids, came for college age and things like that. How much good could you do with your business if it does what it said? And that goes back to one of his core values, which was, take care of my family. So he hadn't really put it in that perspective and hadn't looked at it. And he was like, okay, yeah. So he went back and revised his plan a little bit and decided the other thing that he did not want to do as part of that was he did not want to grow so big that he needed to be involved with venture capital guys. He wanted to grow with the speed with which the business would sustain itself and organically grow. And that is a absolutely positive business decision, perfect business decision. Growing because somebody thinks you should grow is not the reason to grow. Growing because you want to grow and you want to take on that responsibility and you want to take on the success that comes with it. You want to take on, realistically, some of the headaches that come with it. That's the reason to grow your business. In his case, he decided to temper it differently, structure it differently, and he's doing well. And that was important, but we had to have that conversation.
If you really want entrepreneurial freedom and you want to be able to do business on your own terms, you have to start by taking action. A great place to start is by grabbing your complimentary copy of Bob's 8 Steps to Freedom. Go to oyot.com/8 steps and claim yours today.
You know, when you go into a business, do you always have a plan B? And I don't mean plan B like if it doesn't work going down this direction, we'll modify and try this direction. I'm talking about if this business doesn't work, you know, I have a whole different business to try or a whole nother idea to try. I'm notorious for this. My wife says I have ADD. I disagree. Oh, look, a squirrel. I disagree with her. I think I just have a lot of good ideas. My biggest issue is which ones do I implement? And I actually have a folder put off to the side with ideas in it. So if I ever need one, either for me or if I need one for clients, as they're facing something, there's some stuff in there that I can pull out. And that happened several years ago. I actually had a client come in. A friend said he wanted to start a business in the staffing industry. And he said, "Oh, really? Tell me more about what you want to do." So he did. And I went to the file and I pulled out a 10-page business plan with marketing and some ideas and some slogans and everything else. And I said, "You mean like this?" He went, "Yeah, like that. And you can have this. Let's work together on it." And we did. And his business is doing great. But it was an idea that I had a while ago and just never implemented it. But it was time to pull that out of a hat and give it to somebody who could and who really had the motivation. But if you always have a plan B ready to go, that self-doubt is something you probably need to go spend some time and reflect on. I know when it came time to launch this business and the do business on your own terms theme, I struggled for 6 months with whether or not I was going to launch it. Started to decide to launch it. Then I put it on hold for a bit. And I had a friend, some of you may know him as Doberman Dan. And he called me up when he found out that I was going to put it on hold a little bit and gave me what I effectively call a benevolent bitch slap and said, "You're crazy not to do this. You know, people are talking about this. People need this." But I had a hard time getting out of my comfort zone. I've been doing something for 30 years and was good at it. But it was something to take the other part of my experience and put that out, even though I'd been doing this kind of work for 20 years on the side, to physically hang a shingle and say, "Here's who I am." And this podcast is part of that. But I had the same self-doubt we all have. We all have it. We self-sabotage. We get to a certain point and then throw a monkey wrench in or get to 11 and a half hours, get ready to push the button to launch and go, "Yeah, you know what? I don't really like that marketing slogan. That font's not right. That color's not right." Same Doberman Dan has a saying that he's copyrighted, which is just sell the damn thing. And I'm going to have Dan on the podcast in a couple of episodes coming up to talk about just that. When is good enough good enough? Get out there, sell it, let the marketplace tell you, and let the marketplace kind of dispel those doubts for you and push them out of the way. So sometimes even you don't want yourself to succeed. And the last thing that we all do, is we compare ourselves to others. What does a business like mine equal size? You know, what's he doing for revenue? What's he doing? What kind of car does he drive? What kind of house does he have? What kind of trips does he take? The reality is that's just dumb. Why do you care? You know, you're not in competition with them, maybe for business, but you're certainly not in competition about, you know, who's got the biggest set of toys and things like that. So it really is a matter of setting your goals, your priorities, the things we've talked about, setting your core principles. And as long as you're hitting the goals and targets that you want for your family, you're successful. If you're not there yet, you tweak it until you get where you want to go. But if your goal is to make $200,000 a year and take 6 weeks vacation with your kids, and you're making $210,000 and taking 6 weeks vacation with your kids, and you're having fun doing what you're doing, who cares what everybody else is doing? It does not matter. The last group, coworkers and other business connections. There's some professional jealousy. When you leave the land of cubicle dwellers and you set out on your own and you get to work from home and you get to put your name on the door and you get to live a dream and start working on that, there's a lot of people who really want to do that. But again, they are the couch potato, Cheeto eater, binge watching series folks that, you know, I really want to start my own business, but, you know, there's an NCIS marathon on and that's more important. Or I really want to start my own business, but I'm going fishing. If you're not in that group, you're going to do the work. Enjoy it. They sometimes see your gain as their loss. And the reality is the universe is big enough to support all of us. There are clients at every price point. There are clients for every business. Knowing what you need and how many you want and targeting the right people will bring the right folks to your door. Telling the universe, here's what I'm going to do. I'm committed to this and go forward. The universe will bring you folks to your door. If you're doing the right stuff out there, it will try to help. There is not loss in the sense of, I'm going to take, this out of your pocket and put it over here. There's enough for everybody. But some people are just in the mindset of, it's either mine or you stole it. And they will do what they can to sabotage you, which is the next piece. Outright sabotage. They want to see you fail. They never liked you anyway. So you think they're a friend. You think they're a good supplier. You think they're a vendor. Pay attention. Now we're talking about your money and your reputation. Pay a little closer attention to what people say, what people do. Do they live up to the expectations? Do they live up to their promises? If they do, keep working with them. If they don't, go away, back away, and leave them. And the other part of that is the opportunity for them to potentially to sabotage you or to gloat a little bit about you failing or not succeeding to their expectations of what you should be doing. It becomes very difficult. A lot of entrepreneurs, when they start their business, one of their first clients is their old employer, especially in the consultative market, IT market, those types of things, even lawyers. A lot of times you end up working for the employer that you left on a consulting basis. And now the people that you used to work with are watching you come and go at will. They know you're making more than you were making when you were sitting in the cubicle next to them. And that creates some jealousy. They don't want to see you succeed. And pay close attention to what you're being told and how things are happening and who suddenly gets involved in a project that doesn't need to be involved in a project and that kind of thing. So what do you do with this stuff? You can't really get around you other than working a little harder at fixing your mindset and talking to somebody who can help you through it. But eliminate the toxic relationships. But remember that not all who warn you or give you contradictory advice is they're not your enemy. Contradictory advice, challenging your suppositions, challenging your opinions. That is what a good friend does. That is what a good vendor does. That is what a good client does. And that is what a good coach does. If they just nod their head and become yes people to you, that's not helpful. But if they're giving you advice that you can't substantiate from any place else, a perspective that no one else has, you need to kind of question why they're giving it to you. 10 people tell you this is a great idea, and 10 people you respect who seem to know what they're talking about or are experts in their field are telling you it's a good idea, and there's one person saying it'll never work, question that one person. If you hear 50-50, do more research. If you hear 70-30 telling you it's not a good idea or the right time, really question yourself and your research. But be prepared that, when you're in business, somebody has to tell you if there's a problem. Somebody has to tell you the emperor, he has no clothes. They have to tell you the truth. Look for people who do that. Listen to them, apply, and selectively modify based on the results. But understand the fact that there is some jealousy that comes along with it. There is some uncertainty that comes along with it. Temper that. Embrace it. Be ready for it. But always, always, always go back to your why, your principles, and they will steer you in the right direction every time. There's a great book. It's one of the books that's on my shelf. It's dog-eared. I'm on my second copy because I wore out the first one. Highly recommended that you grab this book. It's called The Paradox of Success by John O'Neill. Grab that book, highlight the hell out of it, because it will actually help you deal with the dark side of success, both you and other people, and kind of get you in the mindset of knowing what's coming and being prepared for it. But great book. Go get it. Spend some time with it. It's not a quick read, but it's not, there's not a lot of charts and graphs and things like that. It's a very good read. But the reason it's not a quick read is because you're going to have to stop and think about things that come out of the book and see how they apply to you. And it's well worth the time and effort. I've done it a couple of times. So hope that was helpful. Thanks for joining us today. That's about all the time we've got for this edition of Do Business on Your Own Terms. Join us next week. We're going to be talking to you about and exploring the fact that why outside perspective is critical to your success. I'm going to pick up this. People don't want you to succeed, and moving into but you still need outside perspective if you want to get where you want to go. Until then, remember, if you're going to do business on your own terms.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.